So during my first year of training, I really thought that building a muscular and lean physique was just about showing up to the gym. I figured out it was about this top 3 bicep exercise and lifting as much weight as possible in the gym, because after all, that's what people on the internet said. But after a few months of seeing honestly mediocre progress and having physical discomfort and pain, I started doubting myself because I wasn't getting results I wanted. And it was frustrating. And if you're in that same spot, if you're starting going to the gym because you want to reinvent yourself, you want to reinvent your physique, you need to pay attention to not just the gym, but your whole lifestyle in general. And it's not your fault for thinking that it should be simple, because most people online make it seem fast and easy, which can just leave you feeling overwhelmed. And building muscle actually comes down to 3 key factors, and the gym is only one of them. And you need to get all 3 working if you want to make significant progress. And today I walk you through a holistic framework to help you maximize your progress. So if you're serious about making progress and getting real gains, I'm assuming you're focusing on hypertrophy when you're in the gym, which is exactly what you should be doing. Now, I just want to be clear about one misconception that people make. Training for hypertrophy doesn't mean that you're going to turn into an IFBB pro bodybuilder and pack on 15 pounds of muscle during your first month of training, because building muscle is actually very hard. I've been training for 5 years and I've made significant progress, yes, but I'm far from being The Rock, kind of huge, right? And if, like most beginners, you have delusion expectations of realistics because of social media, which I had in the past and probably still have, but you'll need to change those expectations because they're just not real. In the beginning, I was tempted to blame my bad genetics, but why does it matter? Because I can't change my genetics, nor can you change yours. You got to do with the best you have, so deal with it. And if you've been holding back, thinking that you don't want to get huge, you don't want to get, all these muscles like the people you see on Instagram, you have to rethink that if you really want to make progress in the gym, because that fear is unrealistic, and your focus should be on improving and building muscle based on your progress and your body, your own, not the one of other people. Because when you give it your best, not only will you start making real progress, but you also feel proud of your journey, which is to me the most important thing, as you just know that you gave it your best shot. And now, in order to build muscle, you need to apply tension onto the muscles that you want to grow. So much tension, in fact, that the muscle has no choice but to adapt and grow bigger. And if you watched other videos about this topic, you've likely heard the terms mechanical tension and metabolic stress. Now, it may sound intimidating and overly theoretical, but let me just simplify it for you. It's not that complicated. Your body has been designed for survival and only adapts when it really needs to. That adaptation is very costly, so it doesn't want to do it. So if you want your muscles to grow, you need to give them a strong enough reason to do so. And this is what you got to get close to failure during your sets. Otherwise, you're just not stimulating your body hard enough for it to trigger growth afterwards. So if you're just getting started, like if you're in your first week of training, let's just say, don't focus on destroying your muscles just yet. Focus on learning solid technique first for fundamental exercises like, the squat, bench, bicep curl, whatever it is. You need to get comfortable around the weights and the machines, and then start exploring how tension and physical sensations feel in each movement. And then you can get close to failure because you know what you're doing. Though the key is to maintain good technique while applying maximum tension onto the muscles. But if you skip the technique work and just go straight into blunt force and putting weight onto the barbell, you'll increase your risk of injury like crazy, and you'll eventually hit a wall because there's only so much weight you can handle without a solid foundation when it comes to movement and technique. Now, that's why I want to talk about something I believe is highly underappreciated in the world of training, and that's mind muscle connection. Because to me, weightlifting is as much mental challenge as it is physical one. Yet most people aren't aware that they should be using their brain when they're in the gym. When I'm in the gym now, when I'm working out, the hardest part isn't lifting the dumbbell. The hardest part is staying fully focused on the tension I feel in my biceps for all the 14 reps that I need to do. You don't want to lift weight mindlessly. That doesn't make any sense. If you want to make real progress, you have to be mentally present and engaged throughout every rep. Because the secret is that by using your brain to consciously contract the right muscles during each exercise, you can significantly increase the tension it receives without having to load it up with crazy weights. And trust me, I've made way more gains with this approach than by simply trying to lift heavier, as people were saying on YouTube and Instagram. For sure, you want to destroy your muscles in the gym. Again, you want to come back to that process of adaptation. You want to give it your muscle a strong enough reason to adapt and to grow bigger. But that can only happen once you know what you're doing and you're performing right technique and you have the mind-muscle connection right. Because you need to be smart if you want to maximize your gains and minimizing your fatigue. Because that's another thing that happened to me. When I first started, I was exercising like 5 to 6 days per week, sometimes 7. And I would get crazy fatigue because I had school, I had to work on top of that. So if you're in that situation and you really want to make gains, but you don't have 4 hours per day and unlimited amounts of energy, then you want to maximize gains and minimize fatigue by doing everything that I just said about mind-muscle connection. And it's pretty hard to do so and to focus on destroying your muscles mentally if you're scrolling bikini pictures on Instagram in between sets. I'm just kidding. But you got to be present. That's the idea. So next time you're in the gym, focus on what you're feeling. Pay attention to the sensation each exercise brings to your body. Another thing that really is going to help is to learn the anatomical positioning and insertions and functions of every muscle that you want to grow. And because then you're going to be able to use that knowledge to find the activation in your brain for this specific muscle. Then you have to practice the good technique with the right focus. And then you got a whole lot of different sets of exercises that are really, really powerful because they're putting tension onto exactly the right spot that you want to grow. That's when you unlock the cheat code for muscle growth, basically. All of these 3 pillars are the ones that I cover in Fitness Autonomy. Now, when it comes to nutrition, I've met few people who are actually trying and who are actually willing to improve their nutrition for good and stick to their objectives. Because it's so deeply anchored in the way you function and you eat every day for like, I don't know how many times you're eating, but you're eating a lot. So it's really hard to keep making these good decisions throughout the day. And if you're struggling or if you've been struggling with managing your weight, it's almost certain you'll need to analyze and deconstruct part of your relationship with food to restore balance. You see, you cultivate, everyone does, but you cultivate a belief system about food that is shaped by your experiences and the lessons you learned growing up. For example, if your parents taught you that food is like a reward, that you can get a chocolate cake every time that you get a good grade, an A, then your brain equates food with a reward for good behavior. That's just one example. But my point here is that you are cultivating and you've been cultivating beliefs about food, oftentimes without realizing it. And it's very important that you start to become aware of them if you want to change the way you behave in terms of nutrition. Because when it comes to becoming lean and muscular, the first step is to take an honest, objective look at your current diet and to start tweaking it for you to get results. And when it comes to optimizing nutrition for training, there are really 2 main things that you want to focus on: the number of calories that you're eating and the number of protein that you're consuming. The first principle is very straightforward and you've heard about it, so I'm not going to talk about this topic in depth. But if your main goal is fat loss, if you want to lose weight, you need to be in a caloric deficit. But now if your main goal is to build on muscle, you don't care about putting on a little bit layer of fat, you'll need a caloric surplus. It doesn't have to be black and white, for sure. You can start with one or the other and then switch on to the opposite one if you want. For that, I'll link the best calculator I found online when it comes to caloric deficit, but you'll also find the same for caloric surplus on the same website, which I really recommend. This calculator will tell you how much calories you need to eat each day to reach your goal. But if you've never paid attention to calories before, knowing that you need to eat 2,400 calories might feel as useful as knowing the distance between Earth and the moon, right? Kind of interesting, but not really that helpful. Maybe you can flex it with a girl. I don't know. The same applies to protein intake. If you're aiming to build muscle definition, or at least just avoid losing muscle altogether, because when you cut weight, you need to have high intake in protein if you don't want to lose muscle mass with the fat that you're losing, you need to make sure that you're consuming enough protein, and most people aren't. Now, a general guideline, an easy to use guideline, is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. So I weigh 180 something pounds. So I aim for around 180 to 200 grams of protein each day to make sure that my body has enough to recover and keep my muscle mass intact. Again, now, this number, if you've never tracked your food, which is what we're going to talk about it in just 1 second, this number doesn't mean anything to you. And hell, when I started, I thought that 100 grams of chicken was 100 grams of protein. And I cried out, my eyes out, my eyeballs out, when someone told me that it was actually like 28 grams of protein for 100 grams of chicken. So these are beliefs, and you need to deconstruct them. And you're going to find them pretty much everywhere when it comes to nutrition. So get ready for that, because they're going to be blown away. Now, something that traumatizes most beginners, it's tracking food. Consider it, even if it sounds very scary, and I know that for a fact. So for some people, for most people, I say it sounds like it's against nature, but it's really not, and I'm going to explain to you. So hold on just a second. It's just making sure that you're eating the right stuff and the right quantity to reach your goal. Okay, there are apps like Chronometer, which I use right now, which I'm not sponsored by, that you can download to track what you're eating, giving you insights on your daily intake and the crucial nutrition control of your food, which you need. You need that. Now, I'd argue that tracking your intake is one of the best ways to understand the basics of nutrition, like calories, macronutrients, and everything, and to adjust your intake based on your goals. This is the most scientific way to do things. So if you like science, which everyone does, then go for it. It's not complicated. You're just going to scan some barcodes and weigh your food, and it will take you about a week for you to build the habit. But this small effort is going to save you months of progress, because you're going to make sure that the whole part about nutrition is taken care of. And in a world where you can get 1,000 calories for $2 worth of Oreos, I think it's more than fair to say that spending 10 minutes on an app per day tracking food is worth it. If you come into tracking for at least a few weeks, just so that you get an idea of what you're doing and if you're doing the right thing, then you'll progress faster, because you'll start managing your nutrition independently and effectively and autonomously. But again, very few people are actually going to do it. So if you do it, you'll have the edge. Recovery is the third pillar of building muscle, the last one. And it's actually when muscle repair happens. You don't build muscle in the gym. You build muscle outside the gym, and you have to remember that. Sleep is essential, just like nutrition is. And I've seen many people attempt to improve their sleep only to fall back onto old habits that are pretty destructive. So if you're serious about recovery, you need to prioritize sleep over everything else. Yes, it might sound boring because it means sacrificing a late night here and there. And you should prioritize your sleep, because sleep is the only state in which your body restores and heals itself. Sleep allows you to repair cells and reduce the risk of them mutating into dangerous mutants that are going to kill you, because it's called cancer. Many people don't realize how vital sleep is, or that not getting enough sleep shortens their lives far more than what they might think. That's including you. So if you want to progress, if you want to build muscle, and if you want to live happier and longer, you need to take sleep seriously and aim at quality rests. Getting hours of sleep is essential, but quality is better than quantity here. That means going to bed at consistent times and avoiding disruptions like screens, social media in the bed, and binge watching New Amsterdam for 3 hours. Now, recovery isn't just physical, it's mental too. And high stress levels can prevent you from fully recovering and progressing, which in my case, it has really had a huge impact on my progress. And I think it's one of the reasons why it wasn't so great in the beginning, right? That's where relaxation comes in. Relaxation means being free from tension and anxiety. And it's a mental state you can only achieve through activities that genuinely bring peace of mind, not through TV, alcohol, or avoidance. Some universal ways to relax include meditation, walking, reading, painting, sculpting, dancing, ting. Essentially, it's any activity that induces a calm, relaxed state, even though it's different for everyone, right? Don't fall into the trap, for example, that thinking meditation doesn't work for you because you've tried one time and it didn't work. If you've never meditated in the past and you do it for the first time, you gotta give it a try, a real shot. First, learn how it works. Learn the technique first, and then you'll get the benefits. It's the same concepts. They still apply even though it's outside of the gym. Don't expect to get all the results when you don't even know what you're doing just yet. And that's me talking to myself here. Relieving. It's going to feel relieving, and it's going to take the pressure off. What I suggest is pick one activity that sounds most relaxing to you and just stick to it long enough so that you can learn how to relax through this activity. For me, it's walking and reading, and these habits have been present in my life for quite a time now. And it's a break I get from the rest of the world, where I get to refocus and relieve the tension because I'm just focused on what I'm doing. Again, I teach you all of that in Fitness Autonomy. So if you're interested, the link is going to be in the description as always. And I hope this helps. You just trust the process.